So now to give stage to our next featured speakers, I want to introduce for the first panel called Demystifying Systemic Change. So in today's fast-changing world, challenges are often tackled in isolation. And systemic change is incredibly essential to address these global issues and achieving lasting social and environmental impact. This roundtable will demystify systemic change, offering a clear understanding of how innovation and cooperation can drive large-scale transformation. Systemic change is essential to tackle complex social and environmental challenges, and it is a lens to address a wide range of issues from social inclusion to finance and food security. This approach offers the necessary framework to drive the infrastructure solutions explored at this conference. Let me give the stage to Rocio Castrillo, Director of Entrepreneurship and Strategy at Enisa. Enisa is a public capital entity under the Ministry of Industry, Commerce and Tourism through the Directorate General for Industry and Small and Medium Enterprises. It has focused its efforts on financing SMEs through participative loans, helping to promote growth and innovation in the business landscape. Welcome, Rocio. We're so happy to have you here. Next on stage, we have Anna Dubois, Global Partnerships at Ashoka Global. Ashoka is one of the world's largest network of social entrepreneurs and global leader in social innovation. Thank you, Anna, for being here.
Thank you.
And our third speaker, Eva Curto. She's a part of the International Projects, Innovations and Entrepreneurs and Circular Economy at EOI. And EOI is a business school, a public institution from the Ministry of Industry and Tourism of Spain. It offers executive education and postgraduate programs in business management, environmental sustainability, and entrepreneurship and SMEs. And now let's welcome our moderator, Margarita Albors, founder and president of Social Nest Foundation, who will be leading this panel. Welcome, Margarita.
Hello again, and thank you to our panelists. As Maria Paz was mentioning, well, we know that the challenges that we are fixing or trying to fix are very complex, are wicked, and require collaboration. We are many times or oftentimes trying to tackle these challenges in isolation, and we more and more know now that the importance of systemic thinking, systemic investment, and working with this systemic way. So it's true that it's also a topic that is a little bit kind of complex sometimes, not very well understood, so we are going to try to, through definitions, examples, and the experience of our great panelists today to learn more about what it is and how we can implement it. So let's start with you, Anna. Ashoka has many years of experience and for many years talking about systemic change. So can you please give us a definition, what it is, how do you define systemic change over other types of change? And as well, if you can please give us an example that can maybe clarify what we are talking about.
Thank you, Margarita. It's very exciting for us to be talking about system change. As you mentioned, Ashoka is the largest network of social entrepreneurs. It's 4,000 fellows in the world. All are change makers. All are working on system change. That's why we have learned so much from them. So system change, how do we make this easy, is about shifting the conditions that support the system, the problem in place. That means going to the root causes and addressing the social, economic, environmental conditions or things that are going to holding that system in place, so that we look, and this is the key thing, no, for a sustainable, long-standing solution. The end goal is to transform systems so that we have better solutions. And this is especially key because in the introduction we were talking about the most pressing social issues that are absolutely complex, very interconnected. we've had solutions in place for many, many years. We need to think differently. We need to innovate, and that's what social innovation provides. As an example, for example, Specialisterne, maybe some of you know, it's a social enterprise founded by Ashoka fellow Torkil Sone. He realized that when people neurodiverse were accessing the workplace, there was this mindset of limitation, no? of lacking certain skills, and he turned that around. So Specialisterne, what he does is support people with neurodiverse situations and provides access to the workplace. At the same time, he's changing this narrative about what opportunity means. Because as it happens, they have special skills that are very interesting for certain roles. So I think that's the most important thing, and collaboration in system change is fundamental, and I think we're going to talk more about that.
We will talk a little bit more about that. Rocio, can, in your case, also talk about a project, initiative, an example that you have been working on at Enisa regarding system change?
Of course. Thank you very much for inviting me to this table. Actually, it's a very beautiful name, Demystifying Systemic Change. You know, I'm used more to financials, this kind of economic tables. So it's very, very good to be here talking about a different thing, and also to share a table with another 3 women. So it's, I was thinking this is the first time in my life this happened, coming from the economic area, actually. So
hopefully not the last one.
I hope not the last one. So it's good we realize when all men are here, and it's good to realize also when all women are here. And coming back to your question, I will focus on my own experience in the entrepreneurship ecosystem, because I think, I mean, Enisa, I guess you all, or at least most of you know about Enisa. Our main instrument is the participative loan. So we are used to finance startups in very early stages. And we have been this for almost 30 years, so it's, let's say, it's a kind of mature instrument, but the startup ecosystem changed quite a lot in 2021, when we had for the first time the strategy for the Spain as a startup nation. This was presented by the president of the government, so it was a mission for the country. Maybe a strategy is not the main thing to change the future of the economy, but it was a very starting point for what happens later on. So it was many ministries working together with this common mission, making Spain as a very as a great destination for startups. And let's say the philosophy behind this is that Spain is a great country to live, and you in Valencia know well about what I'm talking about. And the goal for this mission was, and still is, to make Spain the best country to make startups and to invest in them. So from that, 1.5 years later, we have the startups law. I guess you are also familiar with this, with many objectives. Main of them were to lower the administrative burden, to improve the fiscal situation for startups, for investments, to be able to attract investments and talent from all over the world. But apart from this, which is like, let's say, the classical effects, it was also included the generation of the ecosystem. So there were many, let's say, many perspectives from different ministries working together in creating the perfect place for startups to grow or to be generated. So, and from that point, Enisa has several mandates. For example, the certification of startups. We have certified 1,200 startups so far in a little bit more than 1 year. And this is also very good for fiscal benefits. You have to get this certification to access to specific benefits, mainly fiscal. But apart from that, we have had a great registration. It's only 1 year and a couple of months, okay? We expect still to grow in numbers, but we have, for the first time, a very good picture of what the startups are, where startups are, and also to begin to build a community from here. Again, to put startups at the forefront of the policies, to make specific normative framework, to create specific activities, and to ask them or ask you the need you have in order to continue building. I will stop here. Sorry for the
No, but
length.
it's true that I think, as you said, it was a strategy, but it was built with the collaboration of the sectors. I remember going to every city in Spain, talking to the entrepreneurs, asking them what they thought. So really built from down to the top. So as Anna was mentioning, when we talk about system change, we talk about collaboration, and we talk about different players and also doing things together. So I wanted to ask you now about how to engage two players that many times are overlooked, which are communities and the public administration. So Eva, what strategies do you use at AOE to engage local communities in your system change projects?
Well, I think engaging local communities is crucial for any kind of project, but if we're wanting to tackle systemic change, especially. When you implement a project in a territory, there's already existing natural leaders there. There's already existing organizations that are working smoothly and very well, and they're very embedded in the social fabric of the territory. So there's no need to reinvent the wheel. You just have to listen to them. So one of the examples that I will put today is Territorio Emprende. Territorio Emprende is a project that we're implementing in Galicia, northwestern Spain, aimed at impact entrepreneurs, social and environmental entrepreneurs. So while conceiving that project, because basically it's a training itinerary that will accompany the entrepreneurs for 3-4 months, and we could have conceived it as a top-down conception of the itinerary. Okay, I think they would need this, so we would settle these modules. So I think this is necessary for them. This is what they need. But we said no. First, we have to listen what the needs are of the local community. So we decided to set up a phase 0 that is called training of trainers. We call that training of trainers because training is an eligible cost for the European Social Fund, which is the fund that is funding us. But it is actually not a training of trainers. It is creating a safe space for all the natural leaders coming from the quadruple helix: academia, public, local, and regional bodies, civil society, private sector, to listen to them and train them in a way so they themselves can become mentors of the entrepreneurs afterwards. But there's this phase 0 before we even start the training of the entrepreneurs. That's listening to the local community. I don't conceive a project now without doing that, actually, without listening to them first.
And what about the role of the administration? How do you see that it can promote or inhibit the systemic change?
Systemic change.
Yeah.
Well, I think we have a responsibility as public institutions because we set the framework. So we set, at the end, we set the context by which we can encourage transformation or we can keep going as usual, no? Just keep going with the status quo and the old paradigms. One of the examples that I want to put today in this regard is another project that we managed in 2022 and 2023 that was called the Break Fellowship. So the Break Fellowship was a 10 million euros next generation funded program aimed at women entrepreneurs So we attracted in 2 years 1,000 women entrepreneurs from all European countries to Spain. But we didn't have the resources to do all that because it was a huge project. So we decided to launch a public tender. Una licitación, what we say in Spanish, a public tender. While writing the terms and conditions of that public tender, we have the capacity to set the framework. What is what we want? What is what we want to achieve? Do we want a standard soft landing and internationalization program for women entrepreneurs? Or do we want it to be more transformative for the entrepreneurs, transformative for the local communities that are hosting those entrepreneurs? So we spent 6 months co-creating the conception of the Break Fellowship together with experts in the European Union on theory U, design thinking, rural management, fixing population in the territory, women leaders all around Europe. So we had 2 objectives with the Break Fellowship. First, to tackle the gender gap within the European entrepreneurship ecosystem, which is obvious still, but also to tackle the territorial gap in Spain. So we didn't want the entrepreneurs to come to Barcelona or even Valencia or Madrid, where it seems that everything happens in the big cities. We wanted them to go to small cities and rural areas to capitalize their talents so they can give back something, because they were receiving a 7,000 euro program for free. So come on, you're receiving that, you give back. How did we do that? In the tender, it was written that the awardee had to identify 30 local communities, small communities all around Spain, and those communities had to identify local challenges aligned with silver economy, fixing, social entrepreneurship, fixing population in the territory, energetic transition, environmental issues. So each of the local communities identified one challenge, and the breakers, the entrepreneurs, came to Spain, they received the training, but through open innovation sessions, they had to propose solutions for that. And we could have written another thing in the tender. We could have written, okay, you just come to Spain, we do like a standard soft landing thing, and you go back. So we have the capacity as public institutions to set the framework and transform things. But we have to become intrapreneurs in our institutions. Otherwise, things will be as they have been.
Let's talk now about the challenges that system change also represent, or how complex sometimes it is. So, Anna, I want to ask you about, in your opinion, in your experience, what are the obstacles that someone may face when trying to implement systemic change initiative projects, or this new way of seeing the challenges, the problems, or the way to solve them?
More and more we have publications, research, which helps as well, because this effort of demystifying system change is very much needed. Funding is a key space where we still have a lot of opportunity. Why? What I really love about Ashoka Fellows and social innovators is that they see the future brighter than any of us. That they're optimistic. They see ahead something that many of us cannot see, specifically in a context where everything is so difficult. What happens is that they are the experts. They have the best solutions. They are the ones down with the community driving change. When they sit down with a funder, what happens is, first, there's power dynamics. So historically, the funder has more power than the expert, than the social innovator, and that drives certain challenges. So I think the first thing is we need to be able to talk peer-to-peer, eye-level, expert and funder. What's the best thing that we want to achieve? How can I help you with this? And I think that's something very important. And second, the current funding paradigm is not fit for system change. It's very project-driven, output-driven, very short-term, and we need to change that. It's scary, but in average, system change takes at least 10 years. So you really need to be brave and think big and bold, and we really need that. And there are people doing it out there. It's just about looking and managing the conversation in a way that you can actually partner. I think that sense of partnership is key. But even if you're an investor, a bank, a philanthropist, any type of funder, you need to rethink the way you're approaching social innovation, social entrepreneurship, to be really in this journey of getting a brighter future together.
Rocio, can you share maybe some of the learnings that you have had from failure or something that didn't went as you were expecting?
Yes, of course. It's difficult maybe to make a summary here, but I mean, for public administration, change is difficult. I mean, I guess there is nothing new here. And sometimes when we finally find a place where you can do something new, it's very important afterwards to check that there is something new and good afterwards. Because behind every law, behind every public policy, there is a good desire. And 5 years after, we need to check that this is still true. And it's not so common because, I mean, there is obviously there are owners of this policy, people that are very proud of it, and it's very important to confront with what we have done before, and that's why, I mean, I think we are going to agree here, but I invite social community to ask public administration to make impact assessments of the policies we do. Because there are sometimes side effects, unexpected, many times, and it might cover the good desires of the beginning, and it's very important to continue improving. It's necessary to improve any time with the policies. For example, the startup law, it's almost 2 years, so it's very good, at least for me, to hear entrepreneurs to let us know about the problems of our, I mean, there is no perfect law. I mean, I have to tell you this, there is no perfect law, especially for one that is kind of new. There was not a precedent one. And it's very important to be able to listen here, but maybe to do something more systemic, like impact assessments. In this sense, we are working with OECD in the first impact assessment of the law. This is led by the Ministry of Digital Transformations and Función Pública, sorry for the translation, I'm not completely sure of the name. And this is something we need to do. This is something that is difficult for public administrations to do because there are internal powers, and every time there are teams working with this which are very proud of. So it's very important also to receive from outside this urge, this need. I have several obstacles, but I will stop here.
Perfect. Thank you. Do you have questions? Do we have time for a couple of questions in the audience? If someone wants to ask anything to our panelists, you have the opportunity now. Yes, great. We have a question. There's a mic coming over you.
Good morning. Thank you. I have a question about tourism in Spain and systemic change. Being the biggest motor that runs this country, and with more and more people interested in coming here, what Ashoka Fellows see a future for systemic change in tourism? What inspires you that you could share with us?
Very briefly, because we work with fellows on many different topics, but what we've seen in tourism is very connected to what Rocio was sharing, Eva, sorry, putting the community first, making them part of whatever is going to happen in their city, in their space. I think that's the common denominator of everything that we're seeing, which is connected to most any of the topics very, very shortly. They are driving system change basically because they are empowering others if you treat others like change makers. So it applies for tourism, but applies for anything else, really.
Well, I think we should see the picture from a long-term vision, something that we don't have. There's not a critical mass of people thinking long-term. But if we would think long-term, I think we should pivot from an extractive model to a regenerative and life-centered model, for sure. Not only taking into account local communities, as Anna said, but nature in the center. I would go beyond human-centered projects. I would go for life-centered projects. But unfortunately, I'm not super optimistic in that sense. I think it will take years and years to get a critical mass of people thinking that way. But there's no other way for our planet. And tourism and textile and retail are only one of the examples of that.
Wow. Here, Tim.
Hi.
Hi.
Tim Raji from Alpha Mundi. Question for the whole panel. How long do you think systemic change takes? And how do you ensure continuity of action when government leaders or corporate partners have a change in leadership? How do you make sure this systemic change continues in the same direction and with the same momentum? Thank you.
Very briefly, please, because we are run out of time, but
the timing for the public administration, taking into account elections and possible change of priorities. This is also an issue here, and it's when you define this public administration layer and probably politics and this lawyer more for decision making, and these two areas need to work together. And it's so good when they work together, because this is when things really work. So it's maybe a problem, but also a challenge when really politics and the policy decision makers, more at a political level, and the public administration work together. It's when we get the buy-in of everyone to get this systemic change. So it's a challenge for public administrations to work with these two layers that are working together all the time, actually. But when they work, when maybe different parties also in the Congress, I'm going to come again to the startup law, which was approved by the full majority. All the Congress approved this law, so it was a clear space for understanding here. And it's a good signal for the future it seems to be a priority for everyone. And this is exactly the space when things should work. And it's very good when we find these spaces. If there is only one thing in a challenge, it might be not the good place for the resources to go. When everyone really work together, startups ecosystem, the policymakers, the public administration, they all believe in the needs, it's really when the things might work.
I know there were a couple of more questions. Sorry about that. I'm sure that our panelists can maybe stay a little bit longer around if you want to ask them some more questions. We have to close the panel here. Thank you so much. We know that it's challenging, that we don't have much time, and it requires time. But as Eva was saying, we don't have any other option. So we are here very optimistic because we are sure that we are going to be able to create those connections, to really change our way to a more systemic way of thinking. And together, as we were saying, we are wise. So I'm sure with this vision, we will be able to face all the challenges that we have ahead. Thank you so much. Thank you, and enjoy.